Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Judge Eileen Cannon and the ongoing effort to release to the public Volume 2 of Jack Smith's report on his prosecutions of Donald Trump and others. And this is the report that details everything about the Mar-a-Lago prosecution, the one that involved his taking all these documents and not returning them. And there are two other defendants here, his gophers down in Mar-a-Lago, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, who allegedly, and the evidence was quite strong, helped him move things around, keep them from the federal government, and facilitate the whole conspiracy, which involved not simply purloining them, taking them from the White House, but also keeping them from the government, notwithstanding a year of negotiations with the archives and a subpoena and the search, and even after the search. So recall the contours of that lawsuit, which at the time, I think many people, including I, felt that even though it was less grave by far than the actual insurrection that he fomented on January 6th, it nevertheless was very clean and he was guilty as could be. And there was a really unfortunate strategy call by Jack Smith to bring the case down in the Southern District of Florida. It could have been brought very possibly in Washington, D.C., but they were worried that it would look like forum shopping. They rolled the dice in the Southern District of Florida because they knew there was already one judge, and it was a 1 out of 3 shot or 1 out of 6 shot, depending on how you tabulated the odds that they would get that judge. And who knew what would happen then? Because that judge had already showed herself to be really solicitous of Trump before. Eileen Cannon, sure enough, they rolled the dice, they got Cannon, and a total slowdown by Cannon ensued, and eventually a dismissal on the ground that Jack Smith himself didn't have the authority to serve as special counsel. Really a ruling that would not, I think, have survived appellate review, and maybe Judge Cannon herself wouldn't have survived the review. She'd made controversial rulings, and there was the real possibility she would be recused. Okay, be that as it may, when Trump wins January 21st, the case is dismissed, and so the question now, it should have cleared the field for the American people to receive Jack Smith's report about it, which they haven't so far because Cannon has kept it under wraps. Smith testified behind closed doors in Congress a couple weeks ago, but he had to fastidiously avoid even mentioning anything that's in that volume because it contains grand jury material, and pending order of the court, you can't talk about grand jury material. Okay, back to the good Judge Cannon. She received a motion on January 21st, an emergency request to preclude dissemination of Volume 2 and enjoin release of Volume 2. And this was specifically as to Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira because they had a criminal appeal pending, but the United States dismissed it as of that time. They had already dismissed, Jack Smith had dismissed the case against Donald Trump. So, as of January 21st, it's dismissed. What could be the reason for withholding the report with the exigency of the public at least knowing what Smith had found? Well, they filed this report on, or this request January 21st, and Cannon has held it all this time with just no action whatsoever. She's just sat on it. Um, Completely ridiculous, really, and indefensible, but just, that's one way to slow walk, is not to walk at all. So she has held it. And now finally, we're past the point of ridiculousness, and she's now issued an order saying the order that I imposed January 21st, which has been undisturbed since then, I will run its course February 24th of next year. So she has given them 13 months for really no reason at all, to try to just keep things under wraps, keep Jack Smith from talking about it, and keep the country from knowing about it. So now she says, okay, there's only so long you can do this. It'll dissolve February 24th. But she says she will entertain before then or then any kind of appeal from Nauta and De Oliveira, and Trump in his personal capacity as well can intervene as an amicus. He's not even in the case. And they can, nothing in this order prohibits, I'm quoting her now, any former or current party to this action, former or current party, read Donald Trump, from moving for leave to intervene if warranted and seeking appropriate relief before the deadline. So she's giving them till February 24th so she can go, they can come in and say you shouldn't release this volume at all. And their argument was, and I think will be, hey, Jack Smith was not lawfully appointed. Therefore, this was just the work. You can analogize to Lindsey Halligan in the Eastern District of Virginia, that is, in the sort of bizarro world of Judge Cannon. This guy, just ultra vires, was going and doing stuff without a valid appointment. Everything he's done is just ultra vires is the legal term, basically just pretend special counsel. That would be the sort of mindset she would have. He was appointed in violation of the Appointments and Appropriations Clause, and there's information in there that is potentially privileged, so we keep it under wraps. Now, if she holds that, one thing to note is that would, I think, reanimate the case, because that would go up on appeal. I think it would, depending on who would be challenging it, because it could also be, well, we have on the one hand Nauta and De Oliveira, and now Trump in there. Who's on the other side? Oh, the United States. Uh-oh, that's Pam Bondi. That's the fix is in when you're talking about it being, normally it would be the United States pushing for relief. So there will be a question that will come up if Nauta and De Oliveira and Trump, as they surely will, come in and say, don't release this at all. Who's going to oppose it? And then who can try to bring the appeal? Can Smith himself? He's a private citizen. Can anyone in DOJ? Yes, but Pam Bondi has to approve it. So we may actually be in this zugzwang, stalemate, where this really important, it's really all that's left after Trump has ordered the dismissal of everything involving him and Jack Smith's work. Do we have the ability as a public to know what he found, and they can try to gum up the works, and the ability to overturn that is gonna be tricky, because who's going to, in an official way that conveys standing in before Judge Cannon, actually be able to make the claim. Now, you can imagine Congress specifically calling for it to be released, passing a law that Trump vetoes. But what we have here is a totally lopsided balance, where the case has been completely finished. There are times when a grand jury or other protections would abide after that, but they're way weakened. And of course, we have this very strong sort of public claim to find out what happened, and yet it's the one that Trump is trying to challenge tooth and nail. So here's where we stand. She's going to have kept it for 13 months and then just invite litigation, which she will handle in the first instance from Nada Oliveira and Trump, who she's saying you can intervene if you're a former party to say you can't release this because it wasn't a validly appointed special counsel. And then how that's fought out in the legal system in front of her is going to be vexing and tricky, given that the normal parties ought to be the defendants and the United States, but here they are completely aligned, which has caused and will cause other problems as well. So Trump's relentless effort to keep everything bottled up and from the even eyes of the American public and history continue to be waged vigorously, and at least in this part of the fight, he's got his ally in robes, Judge Eileen Cannon, to abet the effort. So it makes for a really tricky situation and not clear what happens down the line after she holds, as I believe she will, that it can't be released because it's the product of an invalidly appointed special counsel. Stay tuned, and Merry Christmas for those who celebrate. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.